All right, good morning, everybody. How's everyone doing today? Markets are opening here any second. Hopefully, you guys are finding your way into the trade room. Very good, Miles. Thank you. Thank you, Crazy Ivan. Yeah, for some reason, I got some technical difficulties this morning. It's just been really. Ghost is in the machine. Had to restart a few things a couple times here, so hopefully the spinning wheel goes away. Once some charts finish loading, I'm probably going to have to do some maintenance on this computer. You can see up in the upper middle chart here, crude oil has been heading lower and considerably lower. It's down over $2 or 3%, down in the $68 range. I hope it keeps going down. Some nice trades you can see. Just want to get control of my computer here, and hopefully that wheel stops spinning soon. It's been rather annoying this morning. Hey, Fernando, how are you? Thanks for attending. It's nice to see you. Hello, Tim, Pamela, John. Excellent. Will my wheel stop spinning? Oh, boy. Kind of stuck here, guys. Sorry about that. Give it a few more moments. Morning, Ron. Well, I really apologize about this, guys. Like everything works perfectly until the morning it decides not to. Morning, John. I see life. Actually, it looks like we're getting closer here. Something was trying to load, taking a long time, probably from the boot camp, which is weird because we were perfectly fine on Monday. But now I'm back. All right. All right, let's do a quick review. There's a short on the pound Aussie, First trade of the morning. That short is at 87.94. We'll adjust the stop up to 88.16. Work around the key level of the 15, right? 1 pip in front of 15. We'll move it 1 pip beyond. Targeting 87, 84, 77, 70, and 63. Just to review what's happened already on crude oil, which started right at 9 with Spotlight. Yeah, so this is a hard call if one were to have gotten into sync, because this trade here happened a little bit too soon, and then right at 9 it did come back up and hit the entry into this resistance. Maybe too far to adjust, but we're going to say that that trade flips over to the yellow trade, and that's where you use a stop and reverse adjustment, adjusting 69.14 down to 69.12. So that gets short. Hits both targets 1 and 2. And again, you got your long trades, which obviously are going to lose because this is trending down, and that one also flips over to short. And the stop and reversal is actually working well if you're, unfortunately, we're getting caught up into the long trades, but then the short trades delivering the goods. So whether you're done in 2 trades or 4 trades, this strategy or this trade plan gets it finished. Ultimately, reversal trades will never work in a trend, thus the word trend, that's what trend means. So counter trend is going to lose in those cases. So you look for, when you have a strong trend down, and you have clues about this because of the EMAs and the space between them and the separation between them, you can see the lower highs and lower lows, etc. You could ask for additional confirmation on reversals. So like, let's say you're looking at this reversal here. Remember, you don't want to get into a reaction. You want to stay with action moves, and it's not always easy to identify. But one of the things I'll do when I see a strong trend lower is I won't get in right away on the long trade. I'll wait for it to come down and test the lows and see if it'll fail and make a higher low and then come up again. Then consider taking it. You could save yourself some losing trades like that. So it takes practice, and you're not going to get it right every time. Here's another case where that would have helped, right? You have a long trade here, but you could clearly see an action move down. And we know when markets are trending, and this is the key that you have to be aware of. When markets are trending, you have an action move, a reaction, and then you want to get a subsequent action move, which is very tradable. And the reaction move will typically get marked. The end of it is often around the 20 SMA, which is why we use that line. And that happens. So that gives you another good action move down, right? So that's a little trick. Here's another case where if you just would wait for it to come down and test the lows and then go back up, you avoid this trade too. So like nearly every single trade you avoid. I mean, maybe that first one's a little trickier because it does come down and then does go up. So you probably end up in that one no matter what. But the 3 that follow are all avoidable with that technique. What about this one? All right, so it's something to think about. That's crude oil this morning. Today's the crude oil report, of course. I'll run this session for about another 25 minutes or so, and then we'll end it, and then we'll come back in for the crude oil report with a brand new session. Unleaded gas. Here's another case where you're getting in right at 9 and getting long here, and then flipping over to short, which does not quite get to money management. So this gets kind of tricky because, again, you're going to flip over to long and then short, and you got all these. The market's oversold, and that's why you got these long setups. So again, the idea of letting it come down and test the lows and then come up and get in sync with the trade will save you in this case. So this is similar to crude oil. Clearly the short trades, that first yellow trade is going to work great. It even hits the perfect target for down here, as long as you don't get wiggled into long. So it's hard. Otherwise, this is probably looking like a losing session if you're getting long, short, long, short. The SMA for the 20, the 20 SMA. I'm using EMAs with the 50 and the 200. So the 20 SMA, I think, I like it better for the purpose that I just described. Good question. All right, so it looks like the pound Aussie did get short. Totally missed the YM because of computer issues. Let's see what happened with the YM. Lots of trading early on. You could see where the long trades, well, that's just a losing trade. I mean, you could do the same technique, but the only thing I would say, and probably prevents the long, is that you really need to make little adjustments around chart levels. So you got a spike to your left. This is especially true with Catapult to some extent. You don't want to make too many adjustments, but if it's really close, asking for an extra tick or two is appropriate, especially with a 14 range bar like this. And these are bigger targets in Catapult, so you definitely need to make the price prove it could push through that little spike to the left, which is marking near-term resistance. That spike is at 856. Your entry is at 854. You got a good sized trade here. A 3-tick adjustment on the entry saves a losing trade. Notice on the next setup, you don't have any chart adjustments to make. So it actually does come down and tests the lows, makes a higher low, and then comes up. But this is not a reaction to an action move because you've already had it kind of react, and it's looking like an action move up now. You don't have the same considerations with this. It's already above the 20 SMA also. So, I mean, you're getting in there or you're getting in when it comes up a second time. Either way, it's a winning trade. 32 points. The 14-point momentum bar does use target 1 as its primary objective. So this really should be a one-and-done session on the YM. But if not, if you got caught up on this and you still need another winner, the next trade is a short. It's pretty straightforward, and that one did quite well also. A 36-point target 1. So that's the YM. I mean, a little bit messy, a little tricky on the trading this morning with some of these charts, but you can see how it did. Continuing on, look at counterpunch with soybeans. This is a little tricky here, only because the setup happens earlier, and it's filtered. It's got a filter that's preventing it from showing up, and then it shows up here. But by the time it shows up, it's hard to see. You can see it in the data window, and it closes up. So you can grab it when it comes back down, and that's where you get in, which is interesting because usually we're trading breakouts, but this is more of a pullback. It already did break out. It's just the way counterpunch works. Get it on the pullback, and then it comes up, hits its first target objective for 13 ticks, which is 3.25 points. $50 a point, and it's one and done today. Soybeans on counterpunch. Took about 4 or 5 minutes to hit that target. 3 minutes, actually, hit it right there. So one and done on soybeans. Donald asking if the soybeans chart is in trend mode, and that's a really good question. It kind of is. It's in hybrid mode, which is a little bit of trend mode, but it's mostly standard mode. But the hybrid mode is used to filter out stop and reversals, and that's actually what happens here at the open. So the way it works, you can see prior to the open of the trade plan, at 7:19 in the morning, it got short. So the system thinks it's short, right? And so then you have the long setup here. But hybrid mode means that in order to stop and reverse, the trend mode indicator has to agree. So it would have to be blue. And because it's still red, it doesn't let you stop and reverse. It doesn't let the system stop and reverse. So then when it turns to blue, after that bar closes, you could see that it closed, the trend mode indicator closed up in blue. Then the entry became valid. It's the same setup as this, just printing a second time when it becomes valid. And that happens when the bar is already up, which would have stopped out the short trade, as you can see, but it doesn't matter. It's still, that long trade is valid, because it didn't come up and hit target 1 yet, hasn't stopped out. So then you get a chance to get that trade on the pullback when you have your trend mode corroboration. So that's how hybrid mode works. It's a filter for stop and reversals. It's one of the nuances of counterpunch, which has 3 modes. It has standard mode, trend mode, and hybrid mode. Standard mode doesn't care about the trend mode indicator. And Counterpunch Express 2 is just by default always in standard mode. But, all right, so trend mode is you only take shorts when the trend mode indicator is red. You only take longs when it's blue. And then hybrid mode is, like I said, you only stop and reverse to the reversing trade when the trend mode indicator's color corroborates the reversal. So for long, it would have to be blue. Now, if you're using Counterpunch Express 2, you just put that indicator on your chart and you can just trade it as a filter. You don't need the calculator to tell you. You just have to make the decision with your brain. So if you're in trend mode and you have a long setup but the trend mode indicator is red, you don't take it until it turns to blue, etc. I don't see the chase ticks on in this one, John. Chase ticks only means that if this type of situation happens, this is another interesting input in the Counterpunch Trader, not in the Counterpunch Express. In this case, when the bar closes up, right? So a setup doesn't occur until a bar closes. The price had already passed the entry, because remember, the entry happened back on this bar. This is the actual setup bar back here. Just reappears when the conditions change and the filter comes off. So that what the chase does is if the bar closes up here, that you could set there's an input in the calculator that lets you chase the entry. In other words, you could push this entry up a tick or two or whatever you decide, so that if it pulls back, it may not pull back far enough to hit your original entry, but if you chase that entry up a little, it'll pull back maybe, and you have a better chance of getting filled. So that's an option you could use in the Counterpunch Trader calculator. Or you can do it manually in your brain, because you just place your order a couple ticks above the entry. So it's one of those things, it's almost like a filter, but you could do it in Counterpunch Express too. It's just not an input in the calculator. Counterpunch has a lot of stuff you could do. So the pound Aussie heading in the right direction. Anybody have any questions? Ron, are you referring, when you say adjustment, I'm not exactly sure what you mean. I started putting some plans on the member site for unleaded and for heating oil. I've got several more. Just working at getting them organized, and one of the reasons why is because I have to move them over to the actual indicator set that you guys have. And then that way I'm creating a workspace that I could also share. BO3, is that the entry? So heating oil, the plan I put up has a little bit more of a breakout on the entry on that particular plan. There may be something like that with unleaded also, but not in the generic plan that I posted. There's endless possibilities, really. Catapult kind of got off to a rocky start this morning. I'm just trying to find. That was part of the problem getting my my trade station open this morning. I've got some charts that are just too much data. That's what I identified as my problem getting started this morning. It just took too long to load. And I'm juggling between multiple computers and trying to figure out which is which, and I'm usually very organized with that, but I got to spend some time sifting through a few things. Oh, okay, so that's a good point. Ron, what you need to get good at, and this is where the sim trading is very important, is anticipating. Are you using TradeStation? I forgot, or Ninja. You want to anticipate. Here's a chart. Let's pop it up here and take a look. This is one of the benefits to range bars, but it does take practice. If you're looking for a long trade, for example, and you know that it's a 20 tick range, you could identify the low of the bar and where the high of the bar should be, and then where the entry should be. So let's say this is going to move like really fast and too fast to enter a trade, which it might, but right now it's not moving too fast. So you have a low at 24.50. You know the high will be 24.70, and the entry will be at 24.72. You can see based on the color of the lines, okay, it just canceled. But if it didn't cancel, you were able to see that the color of the lines was going to close green if it closed up, and you could have placed the trade. Now, of course, you would cancel the trade. So in this case here, now you're looking for a possible short, right? Because the lines are red, not green. And now you can see the high of the bar is 24.54. The low of the bar will be 24.34, and the entry will be at 24.32. So you can go ahead and put your entry in at 24.32. The only problem is you have to know your rules. Don't put your entry in. Because if you know the rules, you should know that this was the setup bar. And why is there no setup? Because the EMA slipped between the low of the bar and the entry. It got filtered out. So you just got to know your rules. But just for the sake of exercise, practicing anticipating setup. So you got all these low bars. It's the first down bar when the lines turn red should be your setup bar. So it does take a little bit of practice, and you want to be careful you don't get caught with a filter. Basically that moving average. You could always turn that off. It's not going to make a huge difference. But the point is that that's how you do it. What is the value of your blue line? Claude, are you referring to this chart, which is more of a purple lilac color, at least to my eye? I know everyone's eyes are different. Or are you referring to the blue line on the spotlight charts? They do different things. Yes. Wasn't a yes or no question. If you're referring to this line, this chart here, the purple line, a catapult, gotcha. It's a filter. That's a 14 moving average in most cases Sometimes it'll be a different number than the trailer. So first of all, it's what we use to trail, right? You can see the trailer trailing around that 14 moving average. And it's also used as a filter. So again, when it comes between the entry and the stop, the low of the setup bar and the entry. Let's just go ahead and turn the filter off for a second. There should be a setup bar here where I put those two arrows, if I'm reading this correctly. It should be. So if you open up the calculator and you come down to where it says filter controls, use EMA filter. Now, first of all, there's two EMA settings. There's this one up here, DO5. This one is in your trailing stop controls. Okay, that's not the same input that's going to affect your filter. That's going to affect what you trail. You have a second input for filters, which is down in the structural controls, EMA length. Notice that also says 14. So in this case, it's being used for two purposes, a filter and a trailer. So if you turn this to false, you turn off that filter, the trailer still works, but the filter would be off. And you see how it saved a losing trade right here? That's your next trade. And again, it happened fast, but if you're anticipating that the low of the bar is 2470 and the high of the bar will be 2490, you could place your order at 2492 while the bar is forming. And that is what the entry would have been, and then you would have had a nice winner right there, you see? So Claude, hopefully that answers your question. And Ron, that's something you're going to want to practice. All of you, you could do this with range bars no matter what strategy you're using. It's one of the benefits of range bars. You can anticipate where the setup will be, but you have to know the rules. It's not easy with every single strategy, because with Spotlight, for example, Spotlight, Power Trader, and Master Suite, you got a lot going on. You have to figure out if there's going to be exhaustion dots and where they're going to end up. It's just harder to do. But it's also a multiple bar setup and easier than Catapult, which is a single bar setup. But Catapult's easier to anticipate because you could clearly see the setup coming. I'm going to turn this to true. So, did you guys notice? Let me turn it to false again, and I want to. Let's turn it off again. I want to show you this filter so that you really understand it. One more time. Turn it off. Okay, you see this setup right here? So the filter actually is when the moving average comes between the entry and target 1. Okay? That's what the filter does. It's not the high of the bar to the entry. It splits between the entry and target 1. It straddles it. We used to call it the mustard line. So you see this long trade right here? That one did hit money management. It did come down and stop out for a small break-even trade. Maybe a few more ticks if you were fast enough. But because the filter straddles, watch how that trade disappears now when I turn the filter back on. So by the way, this is one of the benefits of having the Trade Assist automation, is that you could run optimization tests on different EMAs to see which filter is the most effective. Or not. You might decide no filter is more effective with certain charts. We got a really nice sequence here with these nice 2 long trades on Catapult. Ron, hopefully that helps. It takes a little practice, but that's one of the benefits of a sim account, is that you should, this goes for everybody, regardless of your style of trading, you should practice your trade executions until you get really good at it. And anticipating where the setup bar will be is good brain work, but it's also good for learning how to get those trades placed and forcing you to think through the setup. Just makes you better, all around better. Unfortunately, the pound Aussie came up and stopped out. That was nasty. So some of the next trade plans that I'm going to be posting to the Catapult member site add a little wrinkle to things. It's going to be more of a quality versus quantity trade plan that uses the CCI, the custom CCI filter. And we discussed this in the boot camp. I know a lot of you probably don't remember because there was so much thrown at you all at once, but basically, let me see if I could find a good example of it. Second. That's not the one. Trying to think. 1 second. I just got too many things to look at. All right, this is what I was looking for. This is a trade plan that I'm excited about. This is one where you may want to set up alerts or a number of other ideas, but these trades don't happen that often. But when they do happen, they're very good and they have a high, really great metrics. So let me just, hopefully I don't crash TradeStation by putting on too many things. That wasn't what I wanted. 1 second. These trade plans are interesting because it's very picky. And while the trades happen less frequently, and you may not even get a setup on some days, when you do get them, it wins a lot. So you can see there aren't any trades. The reason why is because, first of all, you have to have an oversold condition where the bar spikes below the red line here, and this is custom settings. Slightly customized. The overbought, oversold level is a little more sensitive, but basically when it gets oversold, now it'll look for a long trade. It's just there aren't any. When it gets overbought, it'll look for a short trade, but again, there aren't any. Most likely because of the filter. So just no trades. But when you do get trades, you end up with a 2.99 profit factor, almost a 71.5% win rate, and a really strong average net profit per trade. $120 practically. 15 winning trades in a row. In the worst case, there's only 4 losing trades in a row. You can see that in the performance report. That only happened one time. But not a lot of trades. I mean, this goes all the way back to March, the end of March. Can't get a lot of data with range bars, so you just have to build this going forward. So, I mean, so far so good. And you can see that it's done nothing but go up. You get the occasional downdraft, of course, like any other strategy, but it tends to recover. So it's a quality versus quantity type of thing. So just to look at the trades, looking at the list, you could see, let's just get to current day. Looks like they're all on here. Yeah, so the last trade was actually yesterday. Oops. And it was a winner. Couple trades on the 2nd, trade on the 29th of July, 28th, 27th, 26th. So, I mean, you get trades. But some days you don't get any. And then if you look at the periodic returns, which is another interesting way to look at things, we could look at weekly. Doesn't seem to lose week to week to week to week to week. Don't have any losing weeks at all. And very few losing trades. You can see, well, maybe, yeah, I'm sorry, there are a few losing weeks. You got the 18th. You got 4 losing weeks. 4 losing weeks, and all the rest winning weeks. This is all really interesting and great stuff to study. So this plan I'm going to put on the member site, hopefully later today is my intention, just to give you a different look and feel. Just going back to see yesterday's trade, there were actually, I think, is this one and done? That's the other thing, is that you could play with the power of quitting settings as well. And this trade is two trades total. So this is a 2 and done. Oh, this is interesting. This is an evening. Okay, so now it makes sense. Now it's making sense why there aren't that many trades. But this is an evening plan. I know a lot of you have asked for evening plans. This is a plan that starts in the evening, 7:40 Eastern Time, and can trade all the way to midnight. Usually the trades happen faster. So that's why I'm looking at it going, wait a minute, why is that at 8:15? So you could see, and also I only have, I don't have all the positions activated on this. I only have a target 4 and a trailer. So it should have hit target 4. I probably got to match the calculator with the automation. So I need to just double check that all the settings are correct on the calculator. You can see that's a full winner to target 4, even though the automation doesn't show it. So I have to check that. You have a filtered out trade. That's nice. Why is that filtered out? I don't remember. Probably because it's not overbought anymore. Right? You don't have any more red spikes. So once it's overbought, you take a short trade, but once it's used up, you don't keep taking short trades. It needs to get another overbought condition. But here you get a long trade, even though it's not oversold. So the calculator is just not, I have to match the inputs. That's the problem that we're seeing here. So I will fix that before I put this on the member site later. But anyway, that's the idea. So this is an evening trade plan. It's one of the beautiful things about the automation is that you could just chase down your own ideas. Here's a case where the first trade loses, and that would be a hard trade to take, right, Ron? You might even avoid a losing trade, which would be lucky. So sometimes not being able to execute a trade fast enough isn't a bad thing. Usually when you see a spike up and down, there's a good chance it happened too fast. But if you're doing what I taught you just now, you're anticipating the low of the bar at 62, you can see that the market's overbought. It's not oversold. So again, I need to fix the histogram. Let's do that. Let's just look at the strategy and see what it says the histogram should be. This is my control indicator set too. What I need to do is put this on the indicator set that you guys have, and there may be some programming differences there as well, which I got to double check. But basically the histogram, true 14,190. Huh. I'm showing you stuff without actually double checking that everything is set correctly. Calculator 14,190. That's set right too. Anyway, there's something that's not right. I'll match it up and get it to work. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, let's see, why is there a long trade? Not exactly sure because it never gets oversold, so I'll have to double check that. But you know why there's a short trade. There would have been a short trade here, but the filter prevents it. So since it's prevented by the filter, it's still looking for a short trade since it's overbought, and that gives this trade, which is very nice. Anyway, sometimes you got to think through stuff, and that's why I'm slow to put the trade plans up on the member site, because I want to double check everything, and I've got a lot of work to go through, so I just can't go faster. But it does give you an idea of some of the things you can do with Catapult, some of the potential. And that CCI filter is one of those things where you can just focus on the highest odds setup and nothing else. And that's good if you want to add a second trade plan or another trade plan just to get some diversification. Or if you already got a trade plan you're using, you're looking for another one. You can look for one that just doesn't produce as many trades, but better trades when they do show up, just as a general idea. Anyway, I'm past the time where I usually stop this session because I need to get ready for the crude oil report. So if you do have any more questions, please save them. I'm going to end this. I'm going to set up the crude oil inventory report session. I'll restart. You guys jump back in. And any questions we didn't cover, just ask me then. All right, so see you in a little while.